Hello and welcome to this Thursday afternoon edition of Andy's Chomping at the Bit. Today is November 17th. Today I'm going to talk to you guys a little about mental health as a general topic, primarily focused on the ones that I personally suffer with, which are mainly depression, which is actually bipolar depression to be exact, and a little bit on anxiety. I'm going to touch more on anxiety and how it affects people, including myself, on a day-to-day basis in another show. But primarily, I'm going to focus on bipolar depression and depression as a whole. So I was diagnosed actually with bipolar depression back, I want to say it was right before my senior year of high school. So that would have been 2005. Um, I was diagnosed with it, and there's a lot of stigma that goes behind, particularly bipolar. People think you're crazy. People think you're unstable, which is true to a point if you're not on your medication. There is some truth to that in a sense, and there's different varying levels of bipolar, different levels of depression, depending on the person. Um, but there are things you can do when you have depression or when you are bipolar uh, to live a normal functioning life, I guess you could say, where you're still contributing with society, and very few people, if any, will even know that you have either of these conditions just from the combination of counseling, medication. Believe it or not, medication does make a difference. But I really want to focus to start out on a stigma behind mental health. Fortunately, as younger generations are coming up and more research is being released, we are finding that and more education on it. More people are realizing that just because you have a mental health illness doesn't mean you're crazy. It definitely doesn't. Um, and it doesn't make you any less of a person, any worse of a person. It's just the way you are. It's nothing bad, not making anything brighter out of it either. It's just one more struggle that you have to deal with. But you can live with it. And the problem is when people believe that they're crazy because of it, it leads to usually leads to them not getting help. And if you don't get help, things do get worse. That's the reality of it. Case in point, in 2008, well, actually, rewind it a little bit further. When my grandma passed away on my dad's side, my grandpa went into really a deep spiral of depression, really, really deep. And he lived about 5 years roughly with that feeling and that struggle. And then in 2008, actually I know the day still, April 8th of 2008, that was the day my brother turned 21. Um, my dad and my brother were down at their friend's farm, and they were going to take my grandpa out to eat afterwards, and only to find out that afternoon that he committed suicide. He shot himself. Um, it was a hard one for us all to take. It really was. Um, and we kind of felt guilty about it too, because one, I had a bad mindset because he was kind of doing some things that we didn't really, agree with, I guess you could say, and so we didn't end on the best terms, which is unfortunate. Um, but the reason I bring that up is because he had the depression, and we wanted him to get help. We wanted him to see a counselor. We wanted him to take medication. But he came from a time where medication, if you took medication for mental health, you were crazy. Simple as that. And he wouldn't accept the new information. He wouldn't accept anything else that he was told. It was literally, if you're depressed and you need medication for it, you're weak, you're crazy, and that's, which we all know is not true now. But that was the time he came from. So he had got angry and made the comment of committing suicide, and we took it seriously. We made him go to his family doctor to get referred to a mental health specialist, so that the doctor would talk to him and tell him through the doctor's perspective that, in fact, he does need to see a therapist for this and take medication potentially to control and cope with his depression. Um, Unfortunately, the doctor's kind of an old school guy too, and didn't acknowledge that he needed help. Thought that he was fine, just struggling a little bit, but he'd be okay on its own. And a few days later, committed suicide. Um, so that's what happens if we don't acknowledge the stigma behind the whole thing and get people's minds changed, reassess how we view mental health. It is literally a deadly mistake if we don't address it seriously. Um, and a million other bad things that have happened to other people because of people not being treated properly for mental health. A lot of that can be prevented with, I believe, it's the two things that are most important. One, it's one that we don't like to do because we like to be in control, but therapist, it really does. Um, I know when people say, well, I could talk to my friend about this, I could talk to my parents about this, or there's a big difference between talk to your friend or your parents and a therapist. A therapist isn't going to tell you what to do necessarily. Um, they're going to do a better job listening, whether you think it or not. They're going to do a better job listening. Um, and they're going to ask you questions that will kind of help you process things better and direct you in the right direction. Um, yeah, like I said, it's kind of the first kind of few times it feels awkward because you don't know the person. People don't feel comfortable talking to people they don't know. Um, the way I look at it, it's actually easier for me to talk to people I don't know because I don't have to worry about what they think because I don't know them either. Who cares what they think, you know? I'm just here to get better. So that's how I look at it. It helps with that approach sometimes. Just going in thinking, well, you know, if they don't like what they hear, who cares? I don't know them, and I'm not going to see them on the street. So that's my attitude. But it does help. Like I said, I see a therapist weekly. It's, you know, it does make a difference for me. It makes a difference for a lot of people I know that see therapists, and not everyone's going to have to see a therapist once a week. Even with me being bipolar, and with my medication and thinking of a therapist, when I get in a more stable situation, it sometimes goes every 2 weeks. I've even had it before where I was able to go every month. Once a month, I'd see a therapist just to make sure everything was okay and everything was working out. It just depends on where you are in your life, how stable you've been, how long you've been stable. All these things do make a difference. And personally, that's just my idea, not forcing anyone. Um, if it was affordable, at least, it'd be kind of nice if everyone had the opportunity, maybe like once a year or something, just to speak with a therapist. Not saying everyone needs to work out all their details, but just sometimes talking to a professional one time, just summarizing your year even, um, wouldn't hurt. You know, it's not going to hurt you in any way. I mean, it might not help a lot, but hey, some people it would make a difference. Maybe something people are overlooking that can make a drastic improvement in their life, or even a subtle difference. You know, any difference helps. um, but another thing that's the big one, the number two thing, and it's the harder one to get people to do actually, is medication. Um, it really does make a difference. I still remember, like I said, I was diagnosed right before my senior year of high school. I did not want to take medication. I'll tell you that right now. I had no interest in taking a pill to control my mood, which I thought was just fine. It was just everyone else overreacting. Um, which anyone who knows me probably knows it wasn't anyone else overreacting. It was probably me to begin with um, when I was on medication. So my mom did something that was very, very, I gotta give her credit. She psychologically tricked me, which, like I said, it was a good thing now looking back. Um, she had me, um, she had me take the medication by saying, you know, if you're perfectly fine, the medication shouldn't make a difference. Um, you know, if you take it for 2 weeks, if it doesn't do anything, stop taking it, you're fine. You know, it's not gonna make a difference. So I started taking it, the 2 pills they prescribed, and 2 weeks went by. I didn't see a difference. Everyone else claimed they saw a difference, but I didn't see it. So I stopped taking it after 2 weeks. And about 2 days after I stopped taking it, I realized as I went back to normal without the medication, that's when I noticed the difference. I didn't notice it when I was taking it, when I was going into it, but when I was coming off it, I could see the difference. Fortunately. So after that point, I I started taking my medication on a consistent basis, for the most part. There are times where I slipped up here and there. There's times where I went off the path. Kind of snowballs when you do that. I mean, kind of ties in with addiction too when you do that. Um, but the big thing is different meds work for different people. So what I take is going to work for the person next door, maybe. Certain people's bodies react to different medications. It just and not some people have adverse reactions to certain, like for instance, I can't take Abilify or Geodon because they cause tremendous weight gain in a very short period of time. Um, and they make me a zombie. Like quite literally, I can take them at 8 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'll be so tired and slurring that I sound drunk until about 1 in the afternoon the following day. So those ones are off the list for me. Um, but some people can take them and they'll be fine. It's just, and at one time I could take them. And that's the other thing. Sometimes your body adapts to your medication in a negative way. For a long time, I was on a couple medications. They worked fine. They worked great. I was stable. And then in 2010, I believe. Yeah, 2010. The medication stopped working. I didn't realize they were stopping working until it was kind of too late, and I kind of flipped out and had a little episode and sent me into a panic attack. Then later on, I make an emergency appointment with the mental health specialist and get new medication, which made me stable. So it's all good, but it's important that when you do have when you take medication, you kind of got to be self-aware a little bit, or develop that self-awareness to kind of recognize when things are starting to go off from the norm, when you're starting to feel different than what you were used to all of a sudden feeling. Try identifying if it's something in the world that's causing it, that's rationally causing it, or in my case, like I said, it was the medication. It wasn't doing what it was originally doing, so I had to adapt. And luckily, there are medications that you can switch to. There's a whole plethora of them available. So it's just a matter of getting prescribed the right one that works, and being aware while you're trying to figure out which one works. When you and your psychiatrist are trying to figure out, never self-prescribe. To find out which one works best for you, just be self-aware, because not everything's going to work. Some things are going to work better than others. But really, that combination of medication and therapy do make a difference. And one of the the cool things about people with bipolar depression or anxiety, all these, you're far from alone. In fact, I believe it was NPR I was listening to a few years ago. They did a study, and they found that out of celebrities mainly, Hollywood actors, actresses, singers, songwriters, it's very common, they found, for these people to have either depression or bipolar or any other form of mental health disorder, because kind of coincides with the creative part of your brain, coincidentally. So I'm curious to see the actual statistics and studies on that. But like I said, it was mentioned on NPR, so I'm not gonna say either way, but it does make sense. I mean, the creative mind is great as far as music, as far as acting, writing, but it can be a curse sometimes too. It can work against you. It really can. There are times where I'll catch myself thinking that what if scenario in my head, and I have to pull myself back a little bit and realize, okay, this isn't rational thinking. This is your mind being creative and working against you. But it's an awareness thing, and that's another one where the medication does make a difference. It helps you. It doesn't make your day necessarily better as far as you're never going to feel sad again. You're never going to have any of these anger. That's not how it works. You're still going to feel sad sometimes. You're still going to be angry sometimes. The difference is you'll have more of the ability to pull yourself away from the situation mentally, and kind of realize that those thoughts are getting too irrational, or too not necessarily irrational, but too extreme, of which they're actually being destructive thoughts instead of informative, I guess you could say. So that being said, that basically summarizes the mental health segment. Um, Hope that helps some of you guys. It definitely helps me just saying it. So I won't lie about that. It's just nice to say it, get it off my chest. Like I said, later on, one of the future episodes, I will talk about anxiety in particular. It's going to tie in with anxiety and self-esteem. They kind of go hand in hand a lot of the time, so I'm going to put those together and do an episode about that. Also, coming up, I believe next week I'll do one on PTSD, and in that time, I'll give you a very personal and hard one to talk about with my personal experience with PTSD. With that being said, I hope to help you guys. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow on Daily Biscuit. Have a good one.